Alright guys, so welcome back to the channel. My name is Highruler, and today's video is going to be talking about Marvel's Avengers recent patch that has patched time travel. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what time travel is, when the raid had just come out, people in the community had figured out that you're able to use your PlayStation in order to kind of, move forward in time. Now, what this did was that it was able to allow those people to get around the weekly reset so that you were able to kind of just play the game basically without any sort of reset holding you back, right? This is how people were able to get to 175 very quickly. This is how I was able to get that video about the exclusive Claw Elite Raid details, whatever, because people who had done that showed me some videos, showed me, all the information I needed, and that's how I was able to do that, right? Now, what this meant was that there was a small subsection of the community here who was kind of taking the game to that next level, right? They were going, okay, we're not waiting for the reset. We're basically just going and moving forward really quickly, and that's it. Now, what happened after this is that once it started getting talked about and passed around a little bit, Trix had made a video on it. Now, Trix wasn't the first content creator to know about this, but he was the only one who said, I'm going to make a video on this. And at the time, he basically was like celebrated, to my understanding, that people were like, oh my God, like, thanks, Trix. Like, now I know how to do this. Now I don't have to wait for the time gating. I don't have to wait for the weekly reset. And people were just able to play the game to their, best of their ability at that point, right? They had 4 hours, 5 hours, able to get a few raid runs in and able to kind of progress to that, end game state. Now, what has happened is that the community, or some parts of it, has done a 180 ever since this has been patched, right? From people kind of, yelling at Trix in his YouTube comments, to people on Reddit, yada, 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 right? And the reason why I'm making this video is not to defend Trix, right? Like, Trix can defend himself. He's very capable of that. But the point of this video is that I think what people are doing is they're taking their frustrations out on time gating on Trix, right? Because time gating has been something that we talked about in the community for many months now, right? We've talked about the artificial kind of limitations on players and how, the game developer, Crystal Dynamics, has basically said you can only progress this far every week, yada, 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 right? And this was a big conversation to, my recollection before the raid even came out, right? If anyone remembers, like, Artie's post on the subreddit, right? There was a lot of conversation about how long it would take to go from 150 to 175, how many weeks, and this is not a new conversation, right? Even going back to July when they were introducing the multiplayer mega hives, and I made a video on that, specifically like time gating the multiplayer mega hives, right? Time gating is not a new issue, but I think it deserves to be talked about again because of the recent patch and everything going on. And to lay the law of the land out here, let's look at both sides of this, right? So from a player perspective, we as players do not want to be artificially impacted by game choices or game philosophy, right? So we want to progress as often as we can whenever we have the time to, right? So that means I want to run 4 raids in a day. To some players, that would mean I would like to progress 4 times in that period, right? Versus the developer side of it, which is like, how do we extend our piece of content for as long as possible, right? How do we go from this content dropping to the next content dropping, and how do we stretch our content out from point A to point B? As well as with Marvel's Avengers specifically, their weekly refresh is tied with the marketplace. So every Thursday you log in, and on top of your weekly objectives, right, the raids, the OLT, Mega Hive, Monica, so on and so forth, you also have the marketplace, right? So you know that you're going to log in, you're going to do your game, and then maybe, you'll look at the marketplace as well, right? It's kind of like that intrinsic habit now, right? It's like, okay, I know I'm going to log in, let's check the marketplace, see if there's anything new, right? How many of you guys actually do that, right? It's now ingrained into your mind to do that every Thursday, right? They've done a really good job at training us to do that, right? And because of that, that's why CD kind of keeps their time gating philosophy in. Extending content, tied in with their marketplace refresh. That's just it, right? So the thing is that you have these two competing forces here. Players don't want to be artificially impacted by, time gates and stuff like that. And you have CD who wants to extend content and tie it in with their marketplace refresh so they get a bigger amount of players checking out their marketplace on Thursday. How do you kind of merge these two things together to get a healthy state? And honestly, they've already kind of done it at one point, right? So for anyone who doesn't remember, at one point in time, Crystal Dynamics actually had 3 weekly refreshes in the game. They were able to kind of do that. I think it was like a Thursday, Monday, or Thursday, Saturday, Monday, or something like that. Like, it was there, right? It was there. And because of that, I feel like, why can't we not go back to that, right? And the reason why I'm saying, 3 weekly refreshes instead of just getting rid of time gate in general is Jay Shockblast actually tweeted something, and he tweeted that it was in response to something else. I think it was a bit of skin conversation, but his point was that after 486 days, you can't expect them to change who they are, right? If they've shown you for 486 days, this is them. To go on the 487th day and be like, I want you to change, it's just never going to happen, right? So you have to use things that are existing within, things that they've already done in order to get the change that you want, right? Of course, I would love for time gating to go away. Of course I would, right? I want players to kind of have that excitement again, because there was a lot of excitement within the community being like, okay, like I can play this, I can do this, I'm having a lot of fun, yada, yada, yada. Now, I want that back for those players, right? As someone who never even time traveled myself, I saw a lot of excitement within my community, other communities, people were having fun. Now, with that being said, I think the best way to do it, the path of least resistance, is to go back to a philosophy they tinkered with, right? They showed that they were willing to try. I don't know what is the conversation about that. I don't know if they would be able to kind of, and I say able to, but obviously more than willing to kind of bring that philosophy back, right? Which is the 3 weekly refreshes. But I think right now, even though this is a small subsection of the community here who did the time traveling, those are your hardcore players, right? Those are your players who are kind of playing the game to that next level, right? Even more so than, myself, for example, right? These guys were playing the game. They were grinding, man. They were the grinders, right? For anyone who saw that meme, they were the grinders, right? And those are some of the players you want to keep happy, right? Let's just be honest, right? Of course, like, they're not always going to be ones who are going to, buy skins or whatever, but those are the ones who are going to be playing your content, helping those new players through, right? So you got to do a little bit of something here to kind of keep those players happy and interested and satisfied, right? Because, I think a lot of the fear when it comes to, removing time gating, for example, is that, at some point players are going to get to 175 or that max level, whatever game it is, right? And then they're going to be like, okay, where's the next piece of content? Where's the content? I need more content, right? And that's always going to happen, right? I think the quote is that players can, rush through content faster than developers can make it, right? No amount of time gating is going to get past that, right? Players are going to play through your content faster than you can make it. But the solution to that is that good rewards are able to incentivize players to get back into those pieces of content, to customize their builds, to get better builds, to get different perks. You know what I mean? Like, the idea there is that even though they're going to be running the same content, if they're running for good rewards that are able to kind of, change up their playstyle, change up their builds, then that should be more than enough for the time being, right? And if Crystal Dynamics were kind of, more than okay with their, raid rewards and everything like that, I don't see why they wouldn't open it up to 3 times per week at that point, right? Say, hey, we know that we got something good here. We know that it's only a small subsection of the community that are very dedicated to the game. Okay, sure, we'll do this for you guys, but just know that, like, the content's not coming any faster, right? Like, once you hit it, that's it. Like, the content will come out when it comes out at that point. And I think maybe a middle ground has to be kind of reached there between those, community members and the developers here. And I think that's where we have to look at, right? They're never going to get, rid of time gating in general, right? It's always going to be there. But what are the steps that we as a community can communicate to them to say, hey, we would like this mitigated a little bit here? And I think that's where the conversation needs to go, right? Be frustrated that there's artificial blocks in your game, right? Be frustrated that the game is saying you can only progress up to a certain point on a weekly basis, right? And not be frustrated at the people who are trying to help others to kind of be like, hey, like, here's a way to get around it, right? Not something I did a video on, but I'm not going to blame Tricks either for that as well. It's just not in me to blame him for that, which is why I don't think anyone else should blame him for that, especially if you're mad at him because the secret got out, right? The secret was getting out regardless. I had people in my community talking about it. I had people in another content creators community talking about it, right? Like, the secret was always going to get out. Now that it's out and now it's patched, I think we need to look at the conversation and reframe it in a way that we're able to get what we want out of Marvel's Avengers. And that's always been the goal. The goal has never been, let's villainize, a community member for kind of helping others get around an artificial limitation. The goal has always been, let's get rid of the artificial limitation to the best of our ability while still fitting in with Crystal Dynamics' philosophy, right? They're never going to change, but they have shown willingness to bend a little bit. And this is something where they need to bend a little bit, I believe. Now, that being said, guys, that is the video today. If you enjoyed this video, you want to see more Marvel's Avengers content, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a nice little comment, and I'll see you guys next time here. Enjoy the rest of your day and night. Take care of yourselves. Later, guys.